All right, so section 5, writing equations of a line. All right, so let me put the forms we discussed in section 4, the previous sections in the textbook. So forms of the equation of a line. We have the following forms. Again, yeah. So the standard form is something that looks like this: a number times x plus minus a number b times y equals a number, right? So in this form, you have both x and y variables on the same side of the equation. The coefficients, the numbers a, b, and c could be anything, positive, negative. Some of them could be zero. If there is a zero for one of the variables, and then we get the special case. So that's the first form. The second form we saw was the slope-intercept form. So the slope-intercept form. That form has the y variable isolated. You have a number times x plus minus a number without a variable. The number that multiply x, we designate with the letter m, that represents the slope. And the number b, whatever that is, positive or negative, even zero, represents one of the coordinates of the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is the point 0b, right? So for being a y-intercept, you must have the first coordinate x equals 0, and then whatever is the number in the second coordinate is going to appear in this form of the equation. We primarily, to write the equations, we're going to be using this form, but this is not the only way, okay? So the other form is the point slope form. And for the point slope form, given that we have the slope and a point with any coordinate, could be x0, y0, they are numbers, right? x1, y1, whatever that is. So the form can be written as y, the variable, minus the value y of the point equals the slope times the variable x minus x0, that is the coordinate of the point. Okay? So this is another way of working in writing the equation. So the slope-intercept form that we have here, and also the point slope form, is primarily the forms that we use to write the equations of line. And there are the two special cases for the form, because if we have a vertical line, so the form for vertical lines is always x equals a number, x a variable, a represents a real number, whatever that is. So when you graph this, and we saw the examples of graphing vertical lines in class, you have the equation always in this form, right? X equals a number. If it is a horizontal line, and then the form is y equals b, there's no variable x, but you do have the variable y, which equals to a number. And when you graph that, you get your horizontal line. Okay, so those are the special case. Now, for the horizontal line, we know that the slope has to be 0, because the inclination of the line with respect to the horizontal axis is 0. For the vertical line, you don't have a slope, simply because that is undefined. If you try to calculate the slope, you always get an undefined operation, which is a division by 0, so undefined slope. But those are the special case. And again, if we are using a form to write the equations, is either the slope-intercept form or the point slope form. If the problem mentions something about vertical and horizontal line, and then you focus on the special case. All right, let me give an example. So we did the problem 5.2 in the textbook. You see me check mark there because I remember what we did that in class, and 5.4 as well. So example here. So write the equation of the line with slope negative 1/6. So it's a negative slope. And the line also passes through the point. Let's do 12, comma, -2. All right. So the answer, whatever is your answer, should be written in the sloped intercept form. So express the answer in the slope intercept form. For my solution here, I want to write my equation in this form. So two things I need to have this form complete. I need the slope and the y-intercept. Once I have these two numbers, it means my equation is complete. The slope in this problem is already given, so I don't have to calculate. Great, let's work for me. So we have that the slope is -1/6. We're going to use that. But we don't have B, the y-intercept, the second coordinate of the y-intercept. Okay? We have to calculate P by using the given point. The given point is not the y-intercept because if you look at the coordinates of this point, it does not start with 0. It doesn't have x equals 0. So it's not -2. B is not -2 because of that. So we have to calculate. But that point give us x and y value that work for the equation that we want to build, that we want to write for this line. So we take x from the point as 12 and the y value from the point -2. And now we put everything into the form of the equation that we want to, complete. So if you put this in the form, we have y, which is -2, m, -1/6. We have x, which is 12, and then we're going to find out what b is. So when I write this, I have -2 equals m, which is -1/6, times, and then the value of x, which is 12, and then plus b. We're going to find out that. So now I have to calculate this. Please note that in the multiplication of the fraction -1/6 times 12, we can just simplify 6 and 12, right? So 12 divided by 6 is 2. My equation now is -2 equals -2 after I multiply the remaining factors there, plus b. So to get b isolated, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So b is 0. Okay? Which means my equation now is complete. The equation of this line, which is what should be my answer, is y equals m, which is -1/6 times x plus 0. So I don't need to write that 0. All right, so here's my other problem. Again, it's a recap of what we did last time. Let's write the equation write the equation of the line passing through the points through -2, comma, -15, and 2, -3. So again, we're going to express the answer in the slope intercept form. Now, when I ask you to express the answer in this form, doesn't mean you have to start with that form. You could start with the point slope form if you wish. The result will be the same. All right, guys, so let's take a look at the solution for this. This time, the slope is not given. So if I want to solve, I still need the slope because of the form. So again, let me write the slope intercept form. So I still need this, but this time I have to calculate that. It's not given. And I also need to find this because it's also not given because I don't have a point that has an x coordinate equals to 0. So meaning I do not have any of the given 2 points being the y-intercept. So I have to calculate that b value as well. All right. But because we have 2 points, that means we can calculate the slope. So we have the formula for the slope, and I hope you remember. The formula is you subtract the y values and divide by the subtraction of the x value. So you calculate the change in the y values and divide by the change in the x values. All right. Now, for me, the x and y values from the points, I will designate the first point as x1, y1. And my second point is x2, y2. So those are the way I'm going to use these values in the formula. So if I plug in these results into my formula, I have that I take -3 minus -15, and I divide that by 2 minus -2. All right, so if I do the calculations, after I plug in the numbers into my formula, I have actually -3 plus 15, or 15 minus 3. And I divide that by 2 plus 2, which is 4. So I have 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So the slope of this particular line is 3. The next step, so I now have this slope, so I have m, is to calculate the value of b. So for that, again, I'm going to use one of my 2 given points as an x and y value to plug in into the formula. So if I'm using the first point, you can do the second point if you wish. I have that the x value is -2, the y value of the point is -15, and the value of m, the slope, just calculated as 3. So plug in into the formula. You have right here the form of the equation. So y, -15, equals m times x. M is 3, x is -2. And then follow plus b. So b we don't have. So let me do the multiplication you see there. So this is -15 equals -6 plus b. So now to get b, we isolate that by adding 6 on both sides. So the b value for my equation is -15 plus 6, so we have -9. right? Which means now I have all the information necessary to write the equation. So the equation, which is my answer, y equals m, which was calculated to be 3 times x, and now b, which is -9. So that's the equation of that.